The ultimate gaming CPU is finally here. I'm of course talking about AMD's newest Ryzen 7800X3D, and today I test it out so I can show you exactly why it's the best gaming CPU ever. Let's just say AMD released this bad boy after the 7950X3D for a reason. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. If you remember back when I discussed the 7950X3D, I went over the fact that the CPU comes with two different chiplets, one with 3D V-Cache and one without. That may seem odd, but there's a reason. See, 3D V-Cache requires lower clocks, and while games get enough performance from the lower latency to justify those lower clocks, most other applications prefer higher clocks. Luckily, according to AMD, games don't get much of a boost from adding a second 3D V-Cache chiplet, so they chose to go with a regular chiplet for the second one. That way you can get great gaming performance while not losing too much in professional workloads. This makes it a great all-around chip, but there's just one problem. Because only a single chiplet has 3D V-Cache, it's the only one that gets a performance boost in games. So believe it or not, AMD actually parks the other cores when you game. I'm assuming they chose not to use the other cores because it'll cause latency when communicating across chiplets, which is the entire point of 3D V-Cache anyway. Plus, Windows likely wouldn't prioritize the cores properly, which would mean that 3D V-Cache cores could be waiting around. Either way, you effectively only get 8 cores when gaming. Do you know what else comes with 8 cores in 3D V-Cache? The 7800X3D. Meaning AMD's new CPU that's $250 cheaper than the 7950X3D is just as good. In fact, it can be even better. See, there's actually a benefit to the 7800X3D not having more cores. Remember when I said AMD parks 8 of the cores on the 7950X3D when it's gaming? Well, it's been proven that disabling the cores gives it a bit more performance, likely because they're taking up some resources even when parked. So the 7800X3D has an advantage there, though there is a tiny downside. Because the 7950X3D is a higher end part, it likely has higher bin chiplets. And from my testing, I saw the 7950X3D's 3D V-Cache getting around 5.2 GHz max clocks, while the 7800X3D only gets to 5 GHz because that's its rated boost clock. So there's a small benefit for the 7950X3D there, but it's clearly not enough. Not to mention the fact that you can get a bit higher clocks from an auto overclock. You can see right here that it was able to get higher than 5 GHz. But of course, remember that AMD's 3D V-Cache chips still don't offer manual overclocking. From what I've seen, that's mostly due to the heat and voltage sensitivity of the stacked V-Cache. With that said, you can probably get a bit more from using the curve optimizer. Which finally brings me to performance. As you can see, AMD sent over their 7800X3D for me to test, and thanks for that. But of course, it won't affect this review. Oh, and for anyone who's interested in picking one up, I will have affiliate links down in the description below. It won't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. Either way, let's go over the benchmarks. As you can see, I tested the 7800X3D against AMD's 7950X3D in a number of games, and it actually trades blows with the 7950X3D fairly well, with the 7800X3D winning at times and the 7950X3D winning at other times. Ultimately, though, the difference, regardless of who wins, is typically minor, even at 1080p. And given the 7950X3D is already one of the fastest gaming CPUs in the world, the 7800X3D becomes the absolute champ here. Don't forget that it's $250 cheaper than the 7950X3D and well over $100 cheaper than the 13900K. Not only that, but it draws very little power for the kind of performance you get, especially if we're talking about comparing it to any of Intel's parts. So you're saving money in more ways than one. Now, with all of that said, the 7800X3D is a gaming CPU through and through, meaning if you plan to mostly use your PC for professional work, with a little gaming on the side, this may not be for you. Because just like the 5800X3D, the 7800X3D only uses a single chiplet with 3D V-Cache. And while the clocks are higher, they're still much lower than other 7000 parts, including the less expensive 7700X, to which, as as you can see, the 7800X3D is a bit slower in multi-threaded workloads than the 7700X. So if you're mostly using applications other than games, I'd suggest almost anything else. Though don't get me wrong, it's still a great CPU for most anything. But if gaming isn't your primary goal, there are simply better options. But if gaming is what you want to use it for, the 7800X3D is incredible. It's shocking just how good it is, and for a great price. So while that does it for today, what do you think about AMD's newest CPU? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.